Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. We are live. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I am live with Christian West of AS Solutions.
Yep.
It's an honor to have you here, sir. Absolutely.
It's an honor to be here, actually.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. If you guys don't know, you should know, Christian West is the founder of AS Solutions. He's been in the game since, I believe, in the 80s. He started out in the game.
Yeah, late 80s. That makes me old, doesn't it?
Yeah, but definitely, you have that experience. That's vital, stuff. That's what I'm looking for here, But started out in the game in the 80s, working some Danish musicians, rolled with them over to Hollywood. So you got that international crossover kind of.
Yeah, I did, actually. I was lucky enough to start my career pretty much in celebrity protection. And then from there, I moved on to a lot of other aspects. So I've done the whole tour life and all of that stuff back in the days.
Yeah, back in the days. And I'm sure it's a little bit more of a Wild West situation back then too,
Yeah, it was a little bit. Especially the people I worked for, they were a little out of control. So
yeah. And that kind of demographic of client can be, it's its own type of beast. It's its own animal, it seems.
It is. But I actually think, looking back at it now, and it's kind of like not the renderings of an old man, but being in the business for a long time, you actually learn a lot from this whole celebrity game, and you learn a lot from the touring world. And I think that I wish more people came into like corporate world and stuff like that with that experience.
Yes.
Because it is hard work. It is really hard work. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because as I've looked at different details and experienced different things, the guys that have that touring experience, they understand the ridiculous hours, the clients that are like cats that are like up all night and like sleep for a few hours during the day, and then they're up, and then, you're getting off work at 7 a.m., and you got to be back there. It builds a flexibility and a work ethic, and do more with less. Let's work with what we got. We got to move. Into your work ethic as a security practitioner, that I think the stable corporate situation, with all the lines and itineraries,
it's different. It's a different minefield to navigate sometimes, because if you have your daily routine in offices and around the principals a lot more, and around the people around the principals, you have to sometimes step even more lightly, because it's much easier to kind of like, how should I say it, kind of become annoying or say the wrong things, or get involved in politics you shouldn't be involved in, or whatever. So I think there are different challenges from all aspects of the industry.
Yeah, that is 100% true, because I think it's seductive for humans to be attracted, to want to be liked and be around someone who's important.
Exactly.
And
that
I was
that's very well put.
Thank you. Because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking, kind of it's seductive for especially new guys, they get a lot of value from thinking that the client really likes them, and that they have this relationship that they're building.
Oh yeah. We have a whole teaching section about how to not become the favorite. And it's so easy to fall into that trap because there's no turning back from it. I don't know of anybody who was able to be the favorite and kind of like backpedal out of it and just become a regular detail member.
And recover.
And it's so sad because a lot of times people are misunderstood and they think it's about FaceTime and it's about the boss liking them and it's about them doing the moving and shaking and stuff like that. And it's actually kind of the opposite. It's not about being invisible. It's not about being kind of like out of the way, but it's about being there when you're needed. And besides that, not being a hindrance to what the client is kind of wanting and not change their lifestyle or kind of become annoying. It's kind of like a thin line to walk, I guess.
That's the game. It is. I like it's beautiful to hear you say that because that's kind of always been my aim as well. It's like I don't want to be the I guy. I want to demonstrate value when the opportunity arises, and then I want to fade into the background so that the client can live their life and feel uninhibited. And so to hear you say that is like it's gospel, man.
Dude, I got a whole spiel on that. It's also a question about you have to remember that to be in this game in a long time, you have to remember it's never about you.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to sometimes feel it's about you because you fly around the world, you get to do all this cool stuff, you kind of like fix all these problems and you kind of start believing your own hype. But at the end of the day, you go to work, you get paid to work, and you should go home at night not thinking that you're a friend with the principal or family of the principal or whatever. At the end of the day, you get paid to be there.
I think that's exactly right. I think someone said it to me, and I'm sorry, I'm not remembering, but they said something like, "You're never really loved, you're more tolerated." And just whether that's true or not, just think of it that way. You know?
No, it's very true. It's very true. And one of my good friends said to me, "Hey, Christian, I worked in the same private office for 14 years, right? I worked for the client for 14 years, part of a private family office, which don't have a lot of employees. So I get invited to all the functions and I get invited for all the different things that goes on in the house. And every time I have to ask the boss, can I charge for it? Because it is work, right?
Yeah.
And every time he invites my wife to come over and stuff like that, the same guy also said, hey, can I charge for my wife? What job do you want her to do, right?
Yeah.
It's not about his wife. And we all kind of want to show the good life to our family or to our friends or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. Not if you want to stay in the game for a long time, that's for sure.
Exactly. And one or two mistakes will put you on the wrong path. And I think too, and I shot a video on this the other day, and I was just like, I guess so what's helped me is I just remember that it's a business, that this is business, you know. I have clients. I care about my clients and I want what's best for them and all these different things. And there's that connection, but I mean, you've got to remember, guys have to remember, this is business. If you're getting a paycheck and your compensation is worth what you're doing and the headache and everything and the hard work, if it's worth it, then be happy where you're at, you know. And
no, you're very true.
Service, you know.
It's very true, and the whole thing about being a business and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. I care everything about our clients. It's all about, but it's about the client from the perspective of we provide a service and we provide a value. Right. And hopefully we can show them that we provide this value. It's not about providing a friend or FaceTime or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's guys, listeners, you know, guys in the game, if you can set your expectations and if you can look at what we do that way, it's going to set you up for success. Disappointment results from misappointing your expectations, you know, and I see guys kind of get emotional and clients do things like, oh, the client doesn't even care about us. I'm like, the client's not, I mean, we're employees, man. I mean, like,
they shouldn't care about us.
Exactly. That's not what we're here to do.
If they were to move their schedule so it would fit us or fit our lives or whatever, I mean, if you think about it, these people that we protect, most of them worked super, super hard to get to where they want.
Exactly.
And most of them are really, really smart people. And a lot of them kind of have learned to accept us because they need us. And we fill a voyage, right? I mean, we're there because we're needed. But don't go to the other side either and become a weirdo that kind of like don't say anything or can't smile or can't laugh or
Yeah.
good morning or become the guy who sits on the jet and don't say anything because you were told not to talk and sit and stare like this.
Yeah.
That's not
It's horrible.
that's not how it works either.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things, if they ask you something, be polite, answer. If there's room for it, crack a joke, be funny. Don't overdo it. Don't show pictures of your kids from your last vacation or get dragged into a conversation about politics
and religion.
or guns or whatever guys get dragged into. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, how did that happen?
Because you will fall on your sword. You will.
Oh, you will. And I'm telling you, Byron, that I'm lucky enough to have built kind of a relatively big company. So I have a lot of guys that work for me. So I hear a lot of stories where it went wrong.
I can only imagine.
It's tough sometimes to teach people because you can teach this in classes, you can teach this in courses, but you don't know how the conversation went. You weren't there. You don't know how it acted. One thing I believe is that most clients are actually very good people. They're not evil or whatever guys make up in their head. But sometimes guys, or when I say guys, I mean agent. It can be guys or girls or whatever. But they wrap themselves into weird conversations or they get put in a situation by themselves where they shouldn't be. You know, and it's hard to get out of. So.
And absolutely, you might say something like like right now it's in vogue to like something or someone or political or whatever, and in a couple of months it might be out of vogue, and they might be, you're now the bad guy because you were on the side of the thing that's like not cool anymore.
Exactly. So, and then the whole thing is like a lot of clients remember well, right? Because they're smart people. So if you said something, they remember it. I mean, I got a good story I always tell when I teach this about two of the guys that worked for me that were really, really good. And the boss wanted to buy a new BMW. And he was talking to the two guys about it when they were driving him to work that morning. And he goes, I was thinking about buying this certain type of car in a long version. And one of the guys looks back and goes, that doesn't exist in a long version. There's only the regular version. He goes, okay. So he buys the regular version. About 2 weeks go by. I picked the same boss up in Moscow, and I have the long version of his car.
Oh, no.
And he looks around, and then he leans over and he goes, hey, Christian, where did you get this car? And I go, at the dealership. And he goes, but it doesn't exist. Your guy in Denmark told me that.
Oh, no.
And, from that day on, the client was kind of like making fun of that guy who said it. Luckily, he didn't get mad.
Yeah.
But, it came to a point where he was almost, hey, can I trust what these guys are saying, right?
Yeah.
So if you say something, you better own it.
Yeah, you better own it. I mean, don't overextend yourself. It kind of goes back to, I did an episode on 48 Laws of Power, a book by Robert Greene. Amazing book on social dynamics. And I think so when guys get on a detail with me, that's one of the books I recommend. Like, I look at it as like training day. Like, Lonzo's one of my alter egos. When I get a new guy on the detail with me, and I talk to him about, hey, it's not about you. Your power's with the team. Bring the average up. Cover your guys. They'll cover you. When you make a mistake, we'll make a mistake. Like, we go through all these different things, and that book, that 48 Laws of Power, helps you with those social dynamics a lot. And this, I think the next book I write is going to be Social Dynamics of Executive Protection. And it's going to cover this stuff right here, because I think this is what gets guys fired. This is what gets guys fired most of the time, I think.
It is. I used to say that you can be the best agent in the world. You can have done all the coolest things in the whole world. But at the end of the day, if you wear the wrong shoes on the wrong day and you don't like them for some reason, it's hard, man. It's hard. And it's hard for me sometimes to save you. So a lot of times it's better to move on to another client, but I then also learned over the years that it's always the same guys who wear the wrong shoes. So
this is so true. It is
the best job and the most unfair job at the same time.
That's so true. It is the best job and the most unfair job, because the highs are so high when you do your job right, and you've got access, and it's so beautiful, and you're taking off from an amazing trip and a another
yeah.
country on the jet, and the cook is bringing you what you need, and everything's happening. It's so beautiful. But when you put your foot in your mouth, and rides in cars and planes are really the dangerous places because
They
it's
are.
like
They are.
with the client.
A lot of times you even get blamed for stuff that's not your fault.
Right. But how do you deal with it,
Well, you just suck it up and go kind of like, yeah, well, hey, and then whenever they might come back to you or whatever, and maybe you just have to eat it or whatever. But it's the most unfair thing, and you can be like that almost battle high in the morning, and then something goes wrong in the afternoon, and it's like, and it can be the weirdest things. It can have been a long day, and you walk the principal to his room and whatever, and the key don't work. And it's like, that's not my fault, but of course it's your fault when you're standing there and he look at you like you're an idiot or whatever, right? So
exactly. That is so true, man. Murphy has got a sense. He's got a baseball bat sometimes, man. Yeah, so I mean that's really one of the reasons that I really, obviously I've always been interested in what you've built and things like that, and I've seen your videos and I respect your opinion and everything. But something I noticed is, you have the full gamut of experience, from even the nightclubs and bouncing into, the VIP, the celebrity stuff, into the tech stuff, into even working the covert stuff, into the success as a business owner, which is like kind of as far as I can perceive it, full evolution of a security practitioner, Well,
I don't know about that. I think there's still a lot of things to evolve into. Yeah, no doubt. I've done a lot of stuff, but I've also been doing it for a long time. I've been doing this for a living pretty much since I was in my early 20s. And I've been lucky enough to work all over the country, all over the planet. Literally all over the planet. I've been involved in, I guess, 70 full-time programs, one way or another, helped build them, been part of them, ran them, been a consultant, troubleshooter, stuff like that. So I've been super lucky, but I think as we kind of go on, time for EP is kind of getting better and better.
Yes,
and I think we evolve into a real industry, which would probably be the biggest thing for me to see, is that we actually become a real industry instead of the weirdos that are hiding under the stairs or the weird guys in the closet that they only want to pull out if something happened or whatever. And it's kind of funny because for us who's been in the game as a business owner for a long time, things are changing rapidly. The last 2 years has probably been the most eventful in changes, and I think we're just at the tipping point of seeing a lot of new things come into EP. So it's exciting. It's very exciting.
I have to agree with you entirely. I've only been here for like 10 years, but even for me to get into the game, it was a game of who you knew, and there was no real career path. There's no benefits. There's no, there's no recognition even. You're just the guy that showed up before. You're almost better off just saying you're someone's handler or,
Well, I think we can learn a lot from that actually in the future, because if we could have called ourselves something else than security, we probably should have. But we're in it now, and it's a question about us building this industry. But a lot of times what we do is logistics, and we do all of these things, and security is really a small element of it. We achieve good security by doing all the other things, right?
100%.
But security sometimes holds us back because we look at everything from a security angle.
Right. I would completely agree with you. It's like, to do this job well and to really demonstrate the kind of value that's going to give you the rapport with the client you need, you've got to be good at so many other things, and managing and facilitating just the movement, concierge, and even the social dynamics, being around the client without being too stiff, but without being too flexible or too loose.
You sit on the bus and
you're a tough guy, or you're
with thinks that she's gotten fat and starts crying, or it was a really bad show and they all get sad, or it was a really good show and then they cry that it was a really good show. And you sit like, I wish I had a cheer channel that I could turn on and off, but you don't want to be kind of like the weird guy at the end of in the end of the bus or whatever. And it's also a question about, there's so many things, and you know better than I am. Like, how do you place yourself on the bus? How do you place yourself on the train? How can you get off before the other people? And how can you get on as the last one?
That's the last.
And all of these things. And it's not about you being a antisocial or being a weirdo or whatever, but it's like, if you somehow get
sucked
in the weirdness of it, get kind of placed in the middle. I mean, it's expected that you're part of conversation, and a lot of times you don't know anything about what these people are talking about. So it's interesting.
It's very interesting. It's a survival of the social dynamics, man. The survival of that is it's really what makes or breaks a guy.
It is. Yeah.
That's so funny. Where to sit, what to sit, where not to sit. You know, they get a call from an ex-wife. Now you gotta like you like the wrong color that was her favorite color. Your skyline, you know, because it's humans. You know, it's humans.
Oh yeah, and then there's all the things that you have to kind of like overcompensate for, right? This is not a big man's game or a small man's game or a skinny man's game or a fat man's game or whatever. Yeah. But if you are any of those things, you kind of have to fit all elements. And some people talk very loud, some talk really low. And it's funny. It's funny. It's really fun.
I look at guys and they, you know, like you get the understandable questions from people that are just getting into the industry, or, you know, people that look and they're like, well, what's it like? And they think it's about like guns and all this stuff. And I'm like, man.
Like, no, but when you think about that, even that's also a funny thing, Byron, because most people who get into this game, and especially the people who's been in it for a long time, we all got in it because we either wanted or had some hard skills that we thought were needed, right?
Right.
And then we got into this and figured out it's all about the soft skills. But every time people go out to train, we go back to training our hard skills, which is the one we use the least. Right?
Yeah.
And I guess it's just nature of who we are or whatever. But I really think that is something that in the future we really have to get better at, because just finding training in what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yes.
And it's very hard to learn from a book or whatever.
I would, because I mean, for me, it was baptized by fire. I saw guys when I first came in the game on a detail just making small mistakes gone. Like, I mean, client offers him salad. Now, this one was obvious. Client offers him a salad. He says, I don't eat rabbit food. Gone. You know, like that one. I was like, oh, well, we were interviewing against each other in a dinner situation, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And him at the table.
And you know, that could have been funny the day before, but if the mood is wrong, like
gun training, take a knee, face outboard forever. You know. So
I had a principal who on his retirement tour looked at me and he goes, "Hey Christian, I know I've been hard on you all these years, but you know that most of the stuff I yelled at you guys didn't matter. It was just because I couldn't yell at everybody else because they were kind of like getting really sad." And I go, "Oh, that would have been nice to know." And he's like, "Ha ha ha ha." It's like, God damn it, because all these years we felt that he was yelling at us for stuff we didn't do and whatever, right?
Yeah. That's funny. Same thing. Like, I had a client that literally I started to recognize it and played to it, but he just wanted to blame me for things when things were going wrong, and I just decided that was okay, and he loved me for it. You know?
Exactly.
You know, just blame it on Byron, you know, and I just was like, yes, sir. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I should have fixed the weather, but I'm sorry. I didn't get around to it yesterday, right?
You know what, and the movie that always kind of reminded me of what we do is the Truman Show. I don't know if you remember the Truman Show. But you're managing everything. Yeah, you're managing everything. You're managing as much as you can, and Truman's just walking, and you're just like everything around him. You're doing your best to just keep it all. You know, you're juggling. Is it raining? Do you want it to be raining, sir? You know, type of thing.
Well, and if not, I mean, I'll make it rain. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll make you.
I got it. It's kind of this that, but it's also kind of like this self-reflecting world that's been created, right? Because a lot of these people haven't opened a door themselves in a long time, right?
Yeah.
Because doors just magically opens when they kind of walk up to them. They don't carry a wallet because they don't need to pay for anything. It's like
That is
They don't
true.
do phone calls because when the phone rings, somebody hands them the phone, right? It's
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting. And a lot of times, if you then take all of that and then figure out what these people have created, what kind of monster companies or monster successes,
Yeah.
and you as the insider see the price that these people pay, you understand completely why they can be impatient or they can be the way
Yeah.
that times are, because they're typically high demanding but not unreasonable. But I mean,
But
don't feed bullshit, because they'll call you on it and they'll see it and stuff like that, right?
yeah. And that, yeah, and man, there's just so much here. That is one of the biggest jumps that I think a lot of people have to make from understanding the very reasonable reality that we live and have lived for 30 years getting into this game. When you're getting into this game, you can't just do this. You can't just do that. No, the client can just do that, because either they'll hire someone who can do it, but in their world, they're a powerful enough person
Oh yeah.
to make that happen, make that demand, make that request, and it's real, and they're wondering what your problem is,
Yeah,
because
exactly. And it's also, one of my favorite questions from outsiders is this whole thing about, do they really need all this? Is the risk really that high?
yeah,
And I usually look at them and I go like, do anybody really need a Ferrari? Probably not. But if they want one, they should buy one and they should have one. And if they want 5, more power to them.
right,
So sometimes if they want it, they should have it. And if it makes them feel good, why not?
exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a fantastic question. It's irrelevant, really. That's a fantastic
Mhm.
answer to that question, because we get hit with
It
that
is.
all
It
the
is.
time.
But a lot of guys are also, I have another funny one that's really funny for the guys who
Yeah.
gets in the industry. They're like,
Mhm.
so, hey, Christian, how do I get on one of your details? How do I get to work for this guy? And how do I do
Mhm.
this? And I usually go, do you have a driver's license? And he goes, yeah, I do. So when you got that driver's license, did you go to Ferrari and ask if you could drive their Formula One car? And they go, no. And I go, why not? You're totally qualified, right? You have a driver's license. And they look at me like, what do you mean? I mean, you kind of went to 1 week of training, and now you want to go and protect one of the most visible people on the
Powerful
planet,
or high
has
vis,
all
yeah.
these threats and has all these big details and stuff like that. Maybe you should start somewhere else, Maybe you should
Mhm.
start at a lower level and not aim that high. But on the other hand, you should always aim for more, and you should always aim to kind of like thrive
Yeah.
yourself and stuff like that. But I kind of like the whole thing of people doing the 1 week training and then they kind of think that they're ready for everything. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I don't have a formal background. I wasn't in the military or whatever. I
Mhm.
started, as you mentioned, as a bouncer. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of things you can do to work your way up, right? And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but it usually goes well with humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that, because I think because in this game, if if you find yourself
Mm-hmm.
in a position that's beyond your development, it can be. I mean, you can make you're gonna make you're not gonna survive it. It's very,
Oh,
you're gonna need the grace of God to survive that. Um, and I think that is. I think really I had my childhood was very. I had a childhood that was very much like I had disciplinarian parents, and like I learned a lot of discipline and I learned a lot of respect, and I learned, I was raised by my mom, so I was kind of very sensitive to her moods and where she was at to survive in my home. And I think it really prepared me for the type of social intelligence I would need to make it through my first, job. But
sure.
I think that the best way to grow in this game is really to work everything and learn from the different stages that inevitably come as, you have more success, you get good at what you do, good enough for someone to then recommend you to do something a little bit better and a little bit more. And then you get to that next level and you make connections in that realm. And
Yeah.
then kind of there's like a natural succession that
I
and
think there
development
is.
that happens.
I think there is. And I think there's something to be said about that as well, because everybody can learn something from a lot of other people, and you can learn a lot of people from a lot of things from the people who came before you, and
Hmm.
a lot of people who are already on the detail. And actually, I listened to one of your podcasts with you and Elisha.
Oh, that was a good one.
And, oh, it was. And Elisha is one of the smartest people in this game. All respect to Elisha. And one
Yeah.
of the things I really, really, really liked that he put very well is the whole thing of why we always have to blame other people for what goes wrong, right? We always have to kind of like point fingers and all the other people and, oh, they should have done this and they should have done that. And I'm actually the biggest advocate for not doing all of that, because at the end of the day, you can only do as well as you can that day, and you can only do as well as with what you have right now.
Yeah.
Because it's right. So just like the people who were kind of being negative towards the guy who was doing the Kardashians doing the robbery and all of that. Yeah, he should have had more people. Yeah, he shouldn't have done that. But you know what? Anybody who worked this game a long time knows that we get put in these situations and you do the best you can.
Yeah.
Right? And you're never going to hear me complain about that. And I think a lot of people who gets into this game should really listen to this, because you can talk shit and talk bad about people and stuff like that, but it really gets you nowhere.
It gets you nowhere.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And you don't know the variables that he was dealing with. You don't know, because to me, in my mind, because we've all been, if you've been in this game long enough, you've been in situations where you're like, this is not the safest way to do this. This shouldn't be happening the way this is happening.
But it does,
but
right?
It's about to. Exactly. And I'm about to roll these dice and do the best I can with what I have. And
it probably went right like 10 times before.
Exactly. For years,
right?
100 times before that, nothing went wrong, which is why the clients believed, you know what? You should go out with the other two, and it's fine to leave her in this secure, well-known hotel. You know, and then you say something as I wasn't there, I don't know what happened, but as a practitioner, maybe you say, well, maybe we should have someone at the hotel, you know, or maybe we should bring more than one guy on this trip. And they're like, look at you like you're crazy, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And now you know your job's on the line, but you had to kind of mention it a little bit, you know?
Well, you also have to push for it sometimes, right? Because that is one of the things that if there was one thing I could change in the executive protection industry, it would be that people didn't look at it like every job is their last job. You know, a lot of people are so afraid of their jobs that they spend more time protecting their job than actually doing their jobs.
That's big.
And I think that a lot of times, if you measure success based on not being in trouble, you're going to have a troubled career. I like to say that if you don't push the bar a little bit every day and kind of goals to where you want to take the details and put out some goals for yourself, right? Then you're not going to go anywhere. I used to work this one detail for one of the most powerful people in the world, and we used to live under the assumption that he didn't want anybody on the front right seat, right?
Okay.
Because we've heard that from somebody. He wanted us in the back cars, only in the second car.
Yeah.
One day my buddy looks at me and he goes, Christian, this is probably going to be my last day, but when the car pulls up, I'm going to jump in the front seat and then we're going to see what happens. And he did. And you know what the boss said in the back seat? He said, hey, when are we going to be at the next stop? And he said, 3 minutes. And the client said, thank you.
That's so good. You know? That's so good.
Pretend about nobody has ever asked him if he wanted somebody in the front seat. So years go by and his secretary kind of have her retirement party, and she was really close with us. And she goes, so is there anything you guys want to ask? And we're like, oh yeah, what about this? And what about this? And we bring this one up and she goes, yeah, that's true. He said he didn't want anybody in the front seat for this one movement because he needed a fourth guy in the car and he could sit in the front seat.
The context.
She didn't know how that turned into us not wanting to be in the front car, but she didn't know understand protection, and we never pushed it with her, right? So for about a year where we didn't ride front right, it was just because we assumed that we couldn't do it, and we were all afraid of pushing it a little too far, right?
Yeah, that's
a lot of times that happens. It's a true story, and it's kind of interesting, and I always remembered that as part of my career. So
that's fantastic because it does happen with like these little like legends happen. These little like we're we're like these little minions sometimes, and we're like, no, but boss doesn't want this, and this whole kind of like legend gets created out of it. Like the monkeys. There's a science experiment with these monkeys in the cage, and like they try to get a grape, and they get punished for getting the grape, and they keep getting shocked when they try to get the grape. So then after a while, no one gets the grapes. And then a new monkey comes in and tries to get the grapes, and the old monkeys beat them down because they're like, we're not getting shot because you want to get the grapes. And this really happens on details. And
it does. I mean, I have this teaching where I go, So the client gets a green pen to write something, and she goes, "Oh, this is a really nice pen." And in the background, you can hear all the handlers and stuff go, "We only need green pens, only green pens, only green pens are allowed on the plane."
Yeah.
And it's like, she just thought it was a nice pen. It wasn't that all pens has to be green, right?
This is real, man. And I also had a buddy on the detail, and he for some reason, it wasn't me. I didn't have the balls like this guy had, but I was kind of like, okay, cool. We're only green pens. I'm good. But he was always the guy that was like, we're gonna kind of, I don't know if train's the right word, not train the client, but like make a bed that we're able to sleep in that makes it so that we can do our job better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot to be said, I think, for and it's really a way to demonstrate value with the client. You know, the types of questions you ask and the types of things that you try to implement really say a lot about your intelligence and your mindset and what you're trying to do. You know, if you're always just quiet all the time and being a yes man all the time because you're afraid of getting in trouble or losing your job, that also says a lot about your intelligence level.
It does, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there has to be something, and it's really interesting when we build teams that has to be protective details. We tend to not learn from other people, right? And when we look at the corporations we work in and stuff like that, they have this whole thing on how do we hire a team. And if we look to like football or sports that we know that you need a quarterback. You can only have 2-star receivers. You need a really good running back. You need a lot of linemen that can block, right? Because without the linemen, the quarterback can't get the ball out, right? So it's kind of like we have to build our teams the same way, but we tend to forget that because a lot of times we're not experienced in hiring people. So we hire people that we like, right? And we think that would fit in. But not everybody fits the same. And a lot of times people are afraid of talking a little bit about the elephant in the room and say, hey, we need this guy because he's really good with the EAs, or we need somebody who's a really good salesman for the team, or we need somebody who has the right image or whatever. And a lot of times people tend to forget that when we build these protective details.
That's so true. Because we look for a bunch of type A personalities like ourselves or something. And that doesn't always work so well, you know?
It does not.
It does not. And I think it kind of brings me on to another kind of topic that is big is play your position, you know?
That too.
You know, everyone wants to be, and Elijah dropped this, and it
I love that part too.
When he says the executive protection agents, it's like Highlander, you know, it's like Highlander.
Exactly, there can only be one.
That killed me. I died a small death laughing at that because it's so true. And guys forget to play their position. I survived as long as I did in some high friction details because I was so good with being second in command or being a ghost, you know, and really doing everything I could to support the guy who's in the high attrition, high friction spot of detail leader and has to do that face-to-face interaction with the client, you know, and just throwing credit and showering as much support to him as I could and leading from the front, telling him what I'm seeing in front as often. I'm out there on the ground feeding him information, trying to make him shine as best I can. And that, you know, rapport that I gain with him from always trying to help him, he then takes care of me in the ways that he can with whatever it is, whether it's scheduling or the spot I want, whatever that is, because we have that reciprocal relationship because I'm playing my position as best I can.
And that's also how you get the experience to, if you one day want to be that guy, to go there. And you know, a lot of people tend to forget that there's nothing wrong and not want to be around the client. Actually, if you want to be the dance guy, or you want to be the driver, or you want to be the event guy, or whatever you want to do. I mean, as long as you do the best you can, there's nothing wrong with that. EP is not all about walking the formation with the boss or whatever. Like,
being that. You need guys on a detail that are all about playing their position, that are like, you know, like, and man, a good advance is so crucial, you know?
Oh, it's kind of like, I don't know, 99% of what we do.
So that's big, man. So then I guess with regards to the term executive protection and everything that you've done and seen for someone coming into the game, or just for someone trying to wrap their mind around it, or for someone who's been in the game, if you were going to sum up executive protection in, you can't, I mean, try to boil it down to like one word, but then also in a paragraph. Like, what would you say it is?
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's actually funny because we spend a lot of time formulating this
Yeah.
based on if you try to grow a company, you kind of get hit with a new set of challenges. Like, how do you get your DNA out? How do you get people speaking and thinking the way that you want? And it's easy if it's the detail you're on or the detail next door, but how do you get the guys in China to do the same thing that works for you?
Wow.
So you kind of have to find some words. And for us, I can't do it in one word,
Mm-hmm.
but for years we kind of like played with different ways, and we came down with the whole thing of safe, happy, and productive.
Okay.
And that's really what we try to live by, right? Of course, we have to keep our clients safe, but the only way we can do that is kind of to keep him or her happy at the same time, because else we won't be allowed to do our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that without just playing to their moods and whatever is actually to keep them productive. And it goes for pretty much everything we do. It goes for the celebrities that we do. It goes for the corporate clients. It goes for pretty much everybody. People don't like to waste their time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I use
Absolutely.
this example. I mean, I can't fix traffic in Nigeria. It's impossible. Nobody can fix traffic in Nigeria. But if I get the client in the car and the internet all of a sudden works in the car, there's cold drink, the air conditioner is at the right temperature, it's kind of familiar, right? It makes them kind of like relax because they're in the environment that they like, and they see the same environment in every car they get in all around the world, right? That makes them productive, maybe productive thinkers, maybe they can relax, which makes them productive later on, and that usually makes them happy or whatever. They come off a long flights, they get in to Lagos, and we all get stuck at the bridge or whatever in the traffic jam, and it's horrible in every way. But if things kind of work and they feel good, that kind of works. So for us, it's the safe, happy, and productive.
Yeah, safe, happy, and productive. And I agree 100% because I think even if I was going to boil it down to my experience, as managing the security contracts that I'm starting to manage and the things that I'm doing, and just the type of person I've been, I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. I've always been working on something. Progress equals happiness for me, and I think it's that way for many of us. You start working out, you start making progress, then it validates what you're doing, and progress equals happiness. And so no matter what's going on, if I feel like I'm remaining progressive and I'm still getting things done, it's very easy for me to still at the end of the day look back and be like, boom, I feel good. I can respect myself and the systems I have in place. I'm happy about them.
Oh yeah, totally. And we have so many options to always do better.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend time on planes alone. We spend time waiting outside the door alone. We spend time on advances alone. So we're in the hotel at night and stuff like that. So there's plenty of opportunities to think about stuff. There's plenty of opportunities to go over what it is that we're doing and trying to reinvent the wheel and trying to see if there's a better mousetrap or a better way we can do it or whatever. Always try to kind of like push it a little bit further.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. Very
Absolutely. And if that like safe, happy, productive, I really like it because if you're not keeping your client happy, like this happy thing, like it's ultra significant. It's like we were talking about.
No, and a lot of people are like, well, it's not about keeping the client happy. It's about security and it's about safety. And it goes back to the old stupid argument about do you carry bags or do you not carry bags or whatever. It's not about that. It's about if we keep the client moving, we keep them happy.
Yeah.
We keep them doing all of these things. And for us, it works really well with the productivity piece, especially now where we kind of like do most of our work in high net worth individuals and corporate teams and stuff like that, right? So productivity is such a big thing, and anybody who's been around most of the rich and famous people in the world knows how hard these people work.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not making them happy, you're just not going to be able to do the other aspects of your job. You're not. You can be the most high speed sub-second draw. Hey,
there's room for that as well, and it has to be there.
It does.
Just what keeps you employed.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So that's good. Safe, happy, productive. Something to keep in the back of your mind.
I like it.
I do too. I think it's very well balanced. That's kind of really a big thing.
I think.
And so just because all this kind of race stuff is going on, I don't like to talk too much about race because personally, like I've looked at it as a type of thing that like I won't let limit me no matter what. I take responsibility for my success. So no matter whether it's, no matter what the barriers to success are, and I believe each of us have our own barriers to success, based on the cards we've been dealt, we all have to deal with those barriers to success. I haven't really experienced anything having to do with race that's been significant enough for me to be upset about in my entire life of being big and black. But what I will say, since it's such a topic, the one question I had for you is, I believe you worked kind of the hip hop realm back in the day when you were coming up.
I did.
I
did.
And did you experience anything? Did you being, who you are? How was that?
That is actually the first time I've ever gotten that question. And
yeah. What was that like?
To be honest, I don't really know because first of all, I was really young.
Yeah.
Came from Denmark with these producers who were producing, for the people who don't know, like the most hardcore at the time gangster rappers. But they were all Europeans as well who was brought over here, right? So I guess we had our own little group of weird Danish guys, but we had something that the rappers really wanted. They were really good at producing beats and tracks and stuff like that. We were always on time, which were really
which is a funny
thing. Here comes Danish people. And for people who don't know, everybody that works for me absolutely hates me because I'm the guy who takes the first plane in the morning, because if it gets delayed, I'll still get there today, even though I don't have to be somewhere for like another 5 hours. I take the first plane,
awesome.
Right? And after 30 years of traveling, I'm always there 2 hours before because in case of it takes too long. So
he's got a baseball bat, man.
Produce these beats and people really wanted it. And for us, it was so overwhelming to come to LA and experience this rap culture. And I mean, most of the people I worked with were named like RoboCop and T-Bone and Big Mike and whatever. And I was bigger back then. I was a bouncer and I worked out a lot and stuff like that, but nothing like this. I'm only 6 foot. So compared to huge people from Samoa and stuff like that, I guess I was the small guy.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of like one of those things. If you take it with a good deal of humor and kind of like, how should I say it? I'm obviously from Denmark, right?
Right.
We kind of always been very diverse, but we're also very curious. So I remember one time I was in the studio and Farrakhan's guys were there.
Yeah.
And talking to this guy in a bow tie and the whole thing, and I didn't really understand this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So I was probably asking the dumbest questions this guy ever have gotten in his whole life.
Yeah.
But he also gave me some answers that I've never ever in my life would have thought about. But it's not for me to judge what's right or wrong, right? It's more about curiosity, and it's more about me having a conversation with this guy because we had to work together and find common grounds and stuff like that. And I think in general, for me, I could probably have picked up on a lot of things where they thought I was super weird. But you know what? I probably were. I remember like one of the guys that one day walks up to me and he goes, all gangstered out in all the colors and everything. I was out and watched standing outside a studio.
Yeah.
This guy comes over and he has the limp and the bare stomach and the bandanas and everything. And he comes over and goes, "Hey, what's up, cuz?" And in my best Danish accent, I go, "Hey, man, I don't think we're related." And he looks at me for like 2 minutes, probably thinking, should I beat the shit out of this kid or should I shoot him or whatever? And then he smiled and walked off. And from that day on, none of these guys outside ever fucked with me. They're like, he's stupid or whatever, right? So there's tons of stories like that, but it's kind of like, and another thing, which always is kind of funny to me. So I've been around the world, like literally so many times I don't even know. I work with all different cultures around the world, and you know how it is when you go to Saudi Arabia, if you go to Africa, if you go to China, if you go to Latin America, you sit with the drivers out in the car, either doing your advanced work or whatever, and you talk to these guys because they're actually cool guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, we all want the same things, you know? We
Yeah.
all want to provide for our families. We kind of want to be left alone by the government.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of want to have time off where we can go and do things we like.
Yep.
And we like to live a good life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. And for me, you know, a lot of people who come into this, they are about reading the books, bow and shake hands and kiss, bow and shake hands or whatever it's called, and all that. You know, I've never been a believer in that working for me, because what works for me is kind of like I smile, I laugh, I make fun of myself a lot. And it has taken me all over the world, and I don't think I've ever in person pissed people off. But I also suffer a little bit on being Danish sometimes, because, you know, we ask questions and we sometimes call things for what they are or what we see, and that can get us in a little bit of trouble. But then you also have to be able to be a diplomat and stuff like that. I don't know if I ever told you, but the weirdest thing about having a Danish accent, you know what that is, right?
No.
If you have an Israeli accent or a British accent, you're by default a security expert, right?
You are so a security expert, and your special forces.
Just by having an Israeli or a British accent, you're either James Bond or you're a commando, right?
Yeah,
if
for sure.
If you have a Danish accent, all people do is they look at you and go like, "Can you say I'll be back?"
That is true. That is for sure.
So it's kind of funny that way.
Yeah. No, that
was a good question, by the way.
Oh yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that one, man. There's so much there with traveling the world and the differences that people have. It's exactly right. You know, we're all looking for the same.
That's the best part about this job.
Yeah. We're all looking for the same things, and man. And I've tried. Same here, man. I've been around the world and operate. I stopped counting at 65 countries. You know, and I validate the heck out of that statement, you know, and it's just really, for me, I feel something that's very, very valuable is the smile, being comfortable enough with yourself to smile. It is like a tactically sound thing you can do to bring the pressure down in an environment and disarm people in disarm situations.
Oh, totally. And if you really want to get tactical for a second, because I'm still very much of an ED nerd, right?
Right.
We're actually working on this whole thing we call microintelligence, right? And you know that we have our whole intelligence set up and stuff like that. But there's one thing people tend to forget a lot, and that's the microintelligence, right? And if you ever go in and study the art of interviewing people and getting information out and detecting liars and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And combine that with working in EP, where we not always have the full agenda.
Right.
A good way and good tips for people to kind of like figure out what's really going on, or do we have the right agenda and stuff like that, is sometimes to make fun of yourself a little bit. Give a little, take a little bit more, give a little, take a little bit more, kind of cross-reference the questions and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you figure out, oh, they didn't tell us that we have an autograph signing afterwards. So they didn't tell me that's going to be 5,000 people. I only thought there would be 200 people.
Yes.
Oh, they also forgot to tell me that 5 people showed up at the office last week asking for the boss already, and all of this. Then the trick for you, when you kind of turn this into microintelligence, is figuring out what matters, what is noise, and what needs to be sent to the smart people who can then kind of decipher, is this real intelligence or is it useful or not, right? And it actually can become a whole art form for you. And I really like that, because for me, that's kind of the mind game of kind of like talking to people around the world and figuring out what's really going on, right?
Yeah. That's like, that is so big. I think one of the biggest kind of barriers, well, like one of the biggest things with that is going to be getting people that don't know how valuable that is in the industry to really understand that that is life. Okay. Being able to understand what you don't know about what's coming on your agenda, getting the information that you're not told is how you stay left of bang, is how you stay ahead of the game, is how you keep yourself looking like a rock star. And it really is, you're leveraging the staff, the house staff, the house mouse, the house mice, I call them. You're leveraging the secretary, you're leveraging friends that have relationships with the clients. If you're good at this, you're pulling information at all the time, and especially until you have the perceptive abilities to look at the itinerary and see the holes in it and see that stop at the bagel shop that, curveballs, and until you can do that just because you have the experience. And even then you're always trying to pull that information.
Oh, you are. And that's also when you can start to kind of like make client predictive behavior.
Yes.
Right? I mean, if you work for the same guys for so long and he doesn't like to sit in a hotel at night, right? But there's no meetings after 6 o'clock. Well, maybe that should be kind of your hint that he's going to do something, right?
Yep. He's going to jump.
We want to go out somewhere. All right, where did we go the last 10 times? Well, we went to these types of places. Well, chances is we'll probably go to some place like that, and it's in Tokyo. So maybe we should keep the drivers. Maybe we should even ask the drivers, where can we control it if we want to go, right?
Yeah, play into our hands.
It goes back to this old joke about you're driving with some celebrities into a new town, and you have two agents on the bus, right? A young guy and an old guy. They ask the young guy, so what's going on in Berlin today? And he starts blabbing, oh, there's these parties, there's this and this and this and this. And the old guy sits back and go, they come to Rome, right? And they ask the old guy, so what's going on in Rome today?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Wednesday, nothing. Let's go back to the hotel. Right? It's two different ways of looking at it, right? Absolutely. And you can kind of like start to steer the conversation, control the conversation. And if they want to do stuff that's unscheduled and whatever, you can kind of like form it into something you can control or something or something you're prepared for, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of like this whole micro-intelligence thing because in a time like now where you have social media, you have people talking about all these things, you have companies that are all over the world or tours that goes on all over the world or whatever it is. You hear a lot of things that you would not pick up back in the intelligence center or on your social media feeds or whatever. And if you can figure out what to send back, they can be a step ahead as well. Yeah. And say, oh, we heard again that this guy was complaining over this. Oh, who was he again? Yeah, I hate he complains all the time, but make sure to send the name back so they know that this journalist might already now start reading or writing a hostile article or whatever, right? Yeah. And I know that in a lot of corporations, especially if you work for the people where news changes all the time and they can be a hit in the morning, but at night they're hated because they did something or they didn't do something or whatever. Being ahead like that and picking it up early helps a lot of intelligence teams to kind of get their products out early.
Man. Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. I mean, and you can look like a dang wizard to your client if you're ahead of this stuff and you're able to, produce information about things like that before they happen. It's also about providing value, right? And it's about what it is that we're doing, and it's about pushing the bar for success and all of these things. And we're there anyway, right? So let's make a mind out of it a little bit. Absolutely. Absolutely. So like, when it comes to, because I know you guys are running like covert protection and things like that, and I think that this is somewhat of a new frontier, and even the intelligence and all that stuff. Could you talk a little bit about kind of really what that is and your guys' approach to that? Sure. I mean, the covert protection is actually kind of a funny thing because everybody thinks that it's brand new and stuff like that, but it's actually been around in Europe for a long time, and especially up in the Scandinavian countries where we come from and in the UK and stuff like that, where perception and image for the wealthy people is that you don't want to be seen like you're the most powerful man in the world or whatever. So typically, if you see a protection team, there might be for the royals or for the president or whatever, like 1, 2, max 3 guys. Yeah. But then there's like an invisible perimeter of undercover protectors that are out a little bit further. And it's a model that works really well for the people who don't want security or is really concerned about their image, or they're really concerned about their kids kind of growing up with protection or whatever. So you kind of build an undercover model around them. And once you kind of get away from the thought of body coverage, but think about it from the outside, you actually have a lot of chances to detect stuff really early. You have a lot of chances to kind of like intervene really early. You have a lot of chances to put yourself in the right spots because you don't have to think so much about customer service. You don't have to think so much about being around the client. You actually can think about security only. And a lot of times the clients know who the protectors are. Sometimes they don't even know who they are. There's just a code word if they have to.
kind of step in, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting. When you
Man.
think about kids going to school and
Mm-hmm.
nannies and stuff like that who don't want a big entourage around, and a lot of times, we also create kind of all the hype around the clients by having all the protectors around them in a bubble and stuff like
Very.
that. Where
Yeah.
if you push it out and kind of like take the undercover mentality, you can
Mm-hmm.
slide under the radar a lot more.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
huge. I mean, you said a bunch of things there. Yeah, like having the overt protection and everyone seeing them and knowing that they're protectors draws
Mm-hmm.
more attention. I mean, the crowd starts to trigger and you start to get all the, oh, someone must be here. There's a guy in a suit here, or there's a
Exactly.
big guy here. Now, who is that? And then you got people like coming up that like don't even know who your client is, but they're just like, can I have an autograph?
Yeah,
But they don't even know who the guy is, and that can be
it
a
happened. It
friction,
happened. Yeah.
high friction situation. And then
Mm-hmm.
now the client doesn't even want you to be around because it's more of a headache. He's trying to get a coffee, and
I
the
know. I know.
security is drawing attention.
But it's
That's
also a question about this one thing I've learned, and that is like in my older days, I've become more of a kind of advisor and
yeah.
stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I fly around talking to the rich and famous or the high net worth people all over the globe. And there's a couple of things I've noticed.
Mm.
One of them is that everybody's a security expert, right?
Everybody.
Everybody's a
There can
security
only
expert.
be one. They're all Highlanders, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then the other thing is also that,
That's,
one of the things I always get from the CSO or from the EP manager or from the EA or whatever, they always go like, but Christian, wait, the boss does not like security. He does not like to have us around.
mm.
And I kind of go, yeah, I got news for you. Nobody likes that.
Right.
Nobody likes that. I've never met the one guy who actually loves it. I learned
Yeah.
met a lot of people who learn to live with it, right?
Right.
But it's
You're always
much easier to
tolerated.
say, hey, we can take care of your security, but you only need to see one guy at the time. But that doesn't mean we have to go down on the level of protection. It just means that we maybe only have to hire one guy that he sees or two guys that he sees or whatever, or take shifts. So he's only ever with one guy. But that doesn't mean that we can't do good security, right? Because
Right.
let's face it, I mean, roadblocks and highway robberies are pretty rare in the US.
Right.
So maybe we don't need to ride in a convoy. Maybe the car should already be ahead, or
Yeah.
maybe the guy should already be at the next site controlling entry. And as soon as he's inside and he's set at a meeting location, maybe you should shoot off to the next location and kind of leapfrog or whatever works.
The
I'm such a
coverage.
advocate of us reinventing what it is that we do all the time for the sake of better security, right? And I don't think there is a wrong detail, because if that's what works for the guys to keep the principal safe, well, that's the right way of doing it.
And then, yeah, I agree 100%. And I really like the covert aspect of it, because I like the multimodal approach. Like you have layers, and with a lot of the church stuff I'm into, there's layers. We have an overt layer with a guy who's got an exposed weapon and all this fun stuff. But we also have a very solid covert layer with all the, with the volunteer staff and reserved or off-duty police officer, even active officers that we have that are volunteering, that are in plain clothes, that are everywhere. And then we even have, you have females and people that really you're not going to think are part of the information network that we have on the campus that is all feeding our security structure,
Oh, yeah,
and
no, of course.
with that covert aspect. Another thing you said that I think is just fantastic is you don't have to worry about facilitating the client's needs directly. You can just do security. So like your bandwidth is just like focused on security. Whereas, when you're with the client and you have to remain focused outboard while you're also facilitating their needs, that takes a lot of bandwidth to do well. And you're getting the door and you're reading people's body language and you're carrying something, or he's ordering and you're paying attention to everything. That's an art. And then to do it and have it look easy and keep the stress level down and be relaxed while you do it.
I think
good work.
that we're going to see a lot of these hybrid solutions, right?
Yeah. I think
and it's also, when you really think at what we've been doing for years, it's also pretty naive that we thought that we can hire 4 guys and they can do it all. They can work events, they can work high risk, they can work low risk, they can do everything. When you really think about it, the 4 guys just facilitates whatever environment that we're in, right?
Yeah.
So if they go to a place where there's not a lot of kind of like overt presence needed, well, they should switch and have a covert model. Or if they go to an event where he has to walk the floor or whatever, well, maybe they need more guys and run an 8-man formation or whatever. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing it. And the most important thing is we don't get stuck in what we did yesterday.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That for me too, like something I'm always looking at is, look, I'm willing to sacrifice who I was yesterday for who I want to be tomorrow. Like tactics need context, you know what I'm saying? And what worked yesterday.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Like situation dictates tactics is what he said, you know, and just because it worked yesterday over there doesn't means nothing today.
Yep.
You know, and I think that type of flexibility is really what denotes a true tactician, you know.
I think so.
The whole getting stuck in anything, I think. What is it? What does Bruce Lee say? What is it? The Chinese proverb, still running water never grows stale, you know?
That's true. That's true. You know, I always wish that I could quote all these things, but I can never remember any of them. I just have to make some stupid stuff up as I go.
No, I guess I've grown into that. That's good that you point that out. I always wanted to be able to do that. Here we go with kind of, this is always a good question. What would be an example of something, mistakes you've learned from as you've grown? You know?
Well, there's so many, you know?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I wish that I'd done differently. But I think that most importantly is, like everybody else says, you have to learn from your mistakes and stuff like that. I think I wasted a lot of time in my younger years waiting for the cool guys to show me how this was done. Because, you know, I came in a little bit with a chip on my shoulder, I guess, because I came from being a bouncer. I never had a desire in my life to be a soldier. I never had a desire in my life to be a law enforcement officer or whatever. I really liked the aspect of working security at nightclubs because stuff were happening, right?
Yeah.
And I figured out a way to work my way into executive protection and stuff like that. But for a lot of years, I really doubted myself and my team. For us, we were pretty, for some reason, we've always been really good at the sales aspect. We've always been really good at getting the details, which is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we figured that out really early.
Okay.
But we used to doubt ourselves a lot. And looking back at it now, we should just have jumped into it way before and kind of just go all out. Because holding back, you really hold back for no reason, right?
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest mistake I've made.
Wow.
But on top of that, you know, I've always been, like, I guess most people, guilty of being stuck in the old ways.
Yeah.
I mean, not too long ago, somebody taught me a new concept of having a jump team. Okay. Which I was kind of like, that's not going to work, but let's try it out. One of the best ideas for this detail ever.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had come up with stuff like that, especially because I really try to be a new thinker. I try to kind of turn everything upside down. Whenever we have our big staff meetings and stuff like that, I'm all about the new younger guys challenging me.
Yeah.
Because I'm almost 50, don't tell anybody. But if I still have to reinvent what it is that we do.
Yeah.
Kind of in trouble, right? Because I'm not out there sweating and running the running boards and doing all the stuff all the time. It should really be the young people who came up with the new exciting ways of doing stuff, right?
Yeah.
They should be the one who came to us with the new gear or the new way of doing advances or integrating and all of that stuff. So sometimes I wish that I had gone better at that earlier. But, you know, you kind of is dealt some cards and you try to do the best with them that you can and hopefully it works out, right?
Yeah, no, I completely dig that, man. That's good that you think that way though, and it's that those learning experiences are huge. You know, that stuff is I mean, I say sometimes we win, sometimes we learn, you know, because you know, all those lessons, I mean, you're able to bring that to everything you're doing now and it just supercharges our growth. You know. It supercharges your ability to be challenged by someone and deal with that in a way that makes you and your company better, which is absolutely priceless.
Oh, it is.
That's
And there's another thing that now when you mention it, and I guess it's kind of human nature, but I mean, I wish I would be better at that earlier on. It's like we're really, really good at remembering all the bad things.
Yeah.
But not always good at celebrating all the good things.
Yeah.
We do so many good things and we do so many fun things, and sometimes we forget. And we forget to remind each other and be grateful and kind of like be happy with all of that.
Yeah.
But we can always remember the time we fucked up, and we can always remember when we lost that client, and we can always blame somebody else and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying hard not to be that guy, but I guess it's human nature a little bit. But I really think that me as a leader of the company needs to be way better at kind of be the forerunner of that stuff.
Yeah. The praise and the positive things as well.
I think so.
I agree 100%. Which actually leads right into the next question. What are some of the most proudest, the proudest moments you've had with your company and what you guys have done? Like some moments you've sat back and be like,
It's really funny because I for the longest really struggled with kind of admitting that we were successful.
Because
I just wanted to be an EP agent, right? So I never really, until maybe 5-6 years ago, embraced the whole thing of being the CEO or being a businessman and all of that stuff. And no doubt, we've been successful and we've done good. But I also have a great team, and I've always kind of been the guy who said, "Well, we don't really do anything that special. We just protect people and stuff like that."
Yeah.
But then when you look back, I mean, there's a lot of moments that have been really successful. I mean, we've actually worked details where we stopped an attack into happening. We've
really
avoided stuff that we know we avoided. I've been part of changing the law for armed security in Denmark and event security. Back the big accident at Roskilde Festival, we worked a lot with crowd safety and stuff like that. And we were lucky enough to be part of working the whole maritime security world. And I think that the maritime security guys played a big role in stopping the anti-piracy stuff. We've made a lot of people able to do jobs, and I think I've always been super proud about the teams that we've had. And one thing as a businessman that makes me super proud now is that I get a report or I hear from one of the guys and he tells me a story about this stuff, and I have no idea what the guy is talking about.
Yeah.
And I haven't been involved with the client. Somebody else actually got the client in. The guy's working the client, and the client is super happy, and it runs, and they do cool stuff, and you can kind of watch it from the sideline. That makes me really proud, because I used to be involved in everything, and it's kind of evolving with it that way. That makes me really proud. The conference is actually one of the things that makes me proud, that we've been able to pull that together and make it the conference that it is now, because it's the only kind of like cross-border thing we really have in the industry, and the industry is pretty defragmented. But it's kind of pulling the end users together with the companies, together with the schools, together with the practitioners. I really wish that we could get over the pity stuff so everybody would participate. There are some fractions in the industry that don't want to be there because somebody once said or once did, and there are other people who don't think they're on board and all of that.
The social dynamics and politics.
I think that is so counterproductive, because really, when you think about it, what really makes us grow as an industry is getting together about something, right? And we don't have anything else. So I think that's a pretty proud moment. But besides that, I don't know. There are so many.
That's so awesome, man. That was a beautiful journey. All the things that you said were fantastic, and I think a lot of it comes out of really kind of one of the first negatives you said, which was just jumping in and doing and figuring it out and just going. And I mean, confidence comes from experience, but at the same time, you know, confidence comes from experience. You got to go and just get after it. You know, I think
you do.
and I think that if people are able to do that, because I see a lot of people fail because they get hit with an equation or something they're unfamiliar with, and that unfamiliarity causes them to like balk and not know if they have what it takes and not know if they can deal with it. And I think that there's just so much to be said for being willing to be like, you know what, by the grace of God or based on who I am, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna go ahead and get after it. And you have what it takes, you know what I mean? Like people with less have done more with less, you know, like people who are less smart as you have done more, you know, in most of our cases, you know.
No, and a lot of times it's also a question about, you know the answer.
Yeah, you generally
don't believe you know the answer, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said about that a lot of times. So
yeah, 100%. We always know what to do. It's just doing what we know to do.
And when to do it, right?
Yeah. I think for me, that's the trickier part. When to do it is a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also a question about, you know, people fail all the time. I fail all the time. I mean, I wish I was better at a lot of stuff. But that doesn't stop me from trying, right? I mean, I'm going to shoot at the IPSB challenge, and I really wish I was a good shooter as many of the rest of you guys. But when you have almost 1,000 employees working for you, I'm happy that I make it out to shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with everybody making fun of me for being the bottom half or whatever. But it's a question about, it doesn't stop me from trying, right? It's a question about one day I can say to myself, when I start working halftime, I'll beat these guys.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like, you know, we fall off the horse a lot of times, but that doesn't stop us from trying to ride, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I love that shooting challenge. I hope I hope I can get there this year too, man. That's something that I love it. I mean,
I think you saw how high the level were last year, and that's why you're backing out this year, man.
Yeah. Now you just had to rub it in, man. Yeah. Oh man, no, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna get in one of these years. I'm gonna get up in there, and at least I don't know, but I'm gonna do well. I love shooting. You see it on all my
I
stuff.
I do.
And I love the camaraderie. I love that brings us in our industry together. It gives you a chance. I mean, you shoot with guys for a day, you get to know them. And you get to see them. And I mean, there's even for guys trying to get into the industry, something I talk about is, hey, you go to a course, you're interviewing, because everyone that you're around at that course is gonna learn something about your work ethic, and they're gonna carry that to their respective details, and they're either gonna call you when they know they need a guy, a good guy, you know, or they're not, based on what they see of you. And so you come. You shake hands with guys, you have lunch with guys, you know, you see guys all over where the convention is, you shoot with guys, and you either add more equity to your work product and your reputation, or you take away from it, you know. That's super.
And I think for me, it's a question about, you know, the last years we've talked about all the soft skills, and we talked about the value adds, and we talk about all these things that kind of builds the business. But for me, it's super important that we never forget what we're here for.
Right. Yeah.
To provide security and provide protection and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of times I'm a big advocate of us training the soft skills, and the conversation you and I have had here today is a testament to how complicated this job can be and how hard it can be to learn for new guys. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to pass your fitness test. You still have to be able to stand on your feet all day. And after 18 hours of waiting outside of meeting rooms to stop somebody who's kind of motivated, you kind of have to remember your A game, right?
Yeah.
And it's not about if we shoot or not. It's more about remembering who we are, and remembering that we are protectors, and there are hard skills involved in what it is that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And maintaining that balance, man. Maintaining that balance. It's being a quiet storm, you know. And I think, man, geez, well, a lot of it comes down to, you know, like, I know who I am. I know what I've done. I know where I've been, and I'm always training to make sure that that's alive and that edge is sharp, you know. And it puts me in a place of like confidence and comfort where I don't have to demonstrate it. I don't have to be the tough guy, you know. I can be like the nice, congenial, you know, guy. kind of a
Yeah.
thought. Yeah, and I think that people like to be around that a lot more than anything else. It's not about being macho or anything like that either.
Nope.
What would you say to guys that are getting into the industry that don't have that military or law enforcement background? Because I get asked a lot. I mean, what would you say to those guys that are, civilian side that want to get into the industry?
I would say that that's the side I come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that if you really want to do this job, there's plenty of room for you, but don't be naive. It takes a little bit longer. You don't have to make up a lot of lies because they'll catch up to you. I personally hate it when people pretend to be something that they're not. I get where they're coming from because it can be intimidating. I mean, when I go to training classes nowadays, you kind of hear all these guys around the table introducing themselves, and they were first this, and they were this and this and this. And being European in America can be pretty intimidating because if I were Danish and I had been in law enforcement or in the military, it would be like, oh, I was a soldier or I was in law enforcement, right? You guys have all these special things and
cool stuff we get.
Recordings, and here am I going like, I'm just here for Instagram photos or whatever you make up that day. But then when you start playing with the guys and they figure out that, hey, you can stand your ground, or you're not afraid of getting dirty, or you can fight with them in hand-to-hand combat or whatever, they actually a lot of times respect you more, right? Mm-hmm. Because they know that you have to work hard to get these skills. Yeah. And get them through the military or through law enforcement or whatever. Yeah. And if you kind of is a good person around these people, they'll respect you and they'll call you as much as they'll call their buddies that were something, right? Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important things that the schools serve. It's probably that network for the new guys. I'm not a big advocate all the time of what is taught is the right stuff, but I also think it's kind of irrelevant what is taught, because it is kind of a pool where people go and get to network and be with each other and figure it out. So when one of them makes it, he has that group of people that he trained with, so he has somebody to call, because it's not a one-man show, right?
Oh, never.
So I think I would remind people who are new to the industry and don't have a big background to do all of that.
Yeah. So 100% earn respect, and I think on a just basic, very human level, I think the game should always be about earning that respect as much as possible, face to face, with your work ethic, and you may have to pay, one guy might be able to say, oh, I was prior whatever, and might get some respect. But at the end of the day, I think to a smart detail leader or to smart agents, they're looking at your work product now, and that respect that is going to actually matter and be lasting is going to be based on what you're doing right now in the game and how you're performing, and I think that's something also that's important to bring to everyone's attention, even if you have a background, even if you're the.
And then you also have to remember that details get bigger and bigger. Yeah. There's more and more agents out there. It's not uncommon that some of the really big details are like 30, 40 people. Yeah. And a lot of people that are kind of like the top of the wealthiest people, they have, 10 houses, 5 planes, boats, all of these
couple islands.
That there's always security projects. So for me as an employer today, it's a lot of more impressive for somebody who has a project manager education than somebody who studied criminal justice. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because driving a lot of these projects and stuff like that we get involved in an EP can be very, very challenging. Yeah. And, when you work for the bigger team, there is an intel team, there is an investigative team, there is all of that. But it's rare that you have project managers and stuff like that. And for me, it's also a question about having great social media skills, having good communication skills. It's just as hard to teach people to write emails in the right tone.
Emails in the right tone.
Protective driving or shooting.
This is very true. And those emails in the wrong tone can be more detrimental, or can help the detail more than, on a regular basis. Those are shots that are being fired multiple times a day. And
exactly.
Relationships. Everything is relationships.
Yep.
Yep. So that's huge. And I would absolutely agree with you. Like, even with some of the guys that I was interviewing, I'm looking for different skill sets, like managerial skills, leadership skills. I want to know that you're going to be socially intelligent enough to deal with clients and also vendors and things like that. So I would absolutely have to agree with that.
Yeah, and then get to know the industry. I
Yeah.
usually challenge people a little bit, and I mean, now I'm putting it out there, but it's always been kind of like my little bit of a secret to kind of figure out how dialed in people are, right? Because I always ask, like, so who runs the 5 biggest EP details in the world?
Okay.
5 guys you would hire if you could recruit them from any detail. Who do
Wow.
you think is the best guys out there, and stuff like that, right? And it
Yeah.
tells you really, really fast, like who if you look away from, obviously they know me if I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
Look away from my company and Gavin, who's the next 3 big EP companies?
Wow.
Stuff like that, just to kind of like test people to see how dialed in they are and stuff like that. It's just like, a lot of people who wants to break into EP, they forget a lot of the nuances. Like, take your CPP, take your PCI, do all of these things, because when I hire you to go to that detail, somebody has to be in charge of building the alarm system for the house, or managing the response, or the cameras, or whatever, because the boss is going to ask us, why doesn't my security work, right?
Yeah.
If I don't have anybody on the team who's a good security all-rounder, who's going to do it, right? So there's so much stuff you can do that makes you hireable, except from the hard skills that you might not have, right?
Right. Yeah.
From the military or whatever. It's rare that you see somebody coming out of law enforcement and they know everything about control room setups in private houses, whatever, right? So there's so much stuff you can pick up.
And with the industry growing so much too, like, those are different entry points that someone can use to get into the game of security and into this industry. If they're not the, strapping young man or woman that's a physical, your classic security, person that everyone thinks of, and you still want to get in this game. Those are different ways to get into the industry, on the intel side or the tech side. Because the industry is expanding, and what we're responsible for is what we're responsible for. The spectrum of that is just growing exponentially.
It is. Yeah.
What would you say you like most, and then what would you say, least and most about our industry?
I kind of like that. I think we're kind of like EP version either 2.0 or 3.0 right now.
Yeah, I think so too.
I kind of like that a lot. We've grown, and we're really putting ourselves on the map with kind of this new reinvention of ourselves, which I think is very, very important. I think a couple of things has happened. I think the clients thinks they have a better need or bigger need than they've ever had. I don't necessarily think that the world is a more dangerous, but I think threats are changing a lot, and clients are buying way more into having EP, but it's based on us being better at selling ourselves and making it visible, and kind of being better at upholding a professional image and all of these things. I really, really like that.
Yeah, it's more pride.
What I don't like about the industry is a lot of times that it's so stressful, because you always get measured for what's going on right now. People forget all the great things you've done for them because of what's going on right now. But of course, that's how you separate the good guys from the bad guys. That's how you keep quality. That's how you do all of that. But I'm telling you, after doing this for 30 years on every single continent, and for anything from Chinese to Libyans to Africans, Americans, whatever, it's always the same thing. And the last few years, I've merged my company into a bigger company, and I actually thought it would get a lot easier because you don't have the same financial pressure as you did. But I was actually totally wrong, because now it's a pride pressure, and that is even harder than a financial pressure, because now I don't want to lose anything, right? Because I want to show everybody that we did this to grow and be bigger and stuff like that. So I think
people are gunning for you, and there's all the
and I think I give a great persona of being the least stressed person in the world. But that doesn't mean that when I go home at night and stuff like that, I can't go like. So sometimes I would like for it to be a little bit more quiet. My wife always used to make fun of me, because she would say, "So what are you going to do this week?" She used to work in the same office as me, and we would drive in, and I go, "Oh, it's going to be a slow week." And about 4 hours in, I would walk into her office and say, "Hey, can you take the car home? I'm going to this and this country because this and this just happened." and I would be
Famous
gone
last
for months
words.
and a half, right?
Oh man.
And I think that sometimes for me at this point, I would like sometimes for it not to be as stressful as it can be.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's
But of
huge.
course, some people thrive on that, and I probably do too. If you ask my
Yeah.
shrink, if I whatever, saying that he totally thrive for that whole thing, so it's not true. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now today. So
Yeah, kind of towards the, yeah, I dig it. I'm sure,
yeah,
there's a point where we just dig it and we love it and love going fast, man. It's
yeah,
validating, it's a
you
good
have to.
feeling.
You have
And to be able to and have to, yeah, no, and to be neat, yeah, it's huge. And to be needed and all that, and to fix that many problems at that velocity, those quality problems, look back at the work of your hands and be able to walk through that stuff. It's ultra validating,
It
And in a
is.
world where we don't get to carry shields and swords anymore, it's like this is what we do now as men.
It is.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but I also think that it's a natural evolvement because
Yeah.
if we had to carry shield and sword, we would pick them up in a heartbeat and ask, "Where do I stand?" Right?
Yes, we would. That was quick. That was good. That's exactly what would happen. That's true, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff.
Very cool.
And I know you guys have some new apps. I mean, you have the app. I've used the app. I loved the organization of the app. I mean, because I got guys, asking, how do I do an advance? What do I do? What do I need to think about? And I literally am just like, yo, download the advance app from AS Solutions, and everything that you need there is right there, and it'll literally walk you through it. I love it. I just want to make sure everyone knows about it. And
Well, thank you for that. It's actually a tool that was created out of need, right? Because without me sitting here talking about how cool we are and stuff like that, one of the issues that I've always had is we reach the size where every day there's about 25 different details going on outside of the normal stuff, right?
Yeah.
How do I make sure that the guy in China, the guy in Korea, the guy in Nigeria, the guy in South Africa, the guy in Colombia does 80% the same work? So the clients get that, and then the 20% ingenuity that they have to put into it. How do I make sure that the advance reports looks the same? How do I make sure of all of that? And you can send them a template, but everybody does it a little bit differently, right? And I kind of, as a business owner, want to be sure that I can track that my guys did their advance work. So it's all time-stamped. I want to be sure that I know they went out and actually did the advance work. So it's GPS locked. I want to be sure that the clients get what they expect every time, because as confusing as EP can be, the only thing that we kind of can give them is stability. Yeah. And the foundation for their crazy lifestyle or their crazy visits and all of that. And even if we don't have all the information, if we do the same things all the time, everybody kind of knows what to expect. It's kind of what advance work is all about, right?
Yeah.
I also wanted a tool where my agents could do it on the fly, so we're not like technology challenged.
Yeah, drag. It doesn't add drag.
I think we still are in security. I think we haven't even started our digitalization process. So by them being able to do the advance work on their phone and sending the PDF before the guy who comes to the country they just did advances in, and the guy can receive it on the plane or before he gets on the plane and actually look through the advance work, that really provides value. And it's also a question about, for me, if, knock on wood, should I ever be in a position where something has gone really, really wrong, and I get called to kind of justify what level of protection we did,
which
God
we
forbid. How do I prove that? I only do that by showing that the client know what kind of level of advanced work we did that lives up to industry standard, and they accept that standard for the past 5 years or whatever, so they know what they're kind of getting. And I think that's important, and that's why we created the app to begin with. So
that's so well thought out, so valuable. I mean, demonstrating value, demonstrating what you're paying for, the work product that you're paying for, being able to give a consistent standard of work across the board, no matter who's getting sent out to do the advanced work. I mean, we were seeing with the Kardashians the same thing. The gentleman who was working for them, he's taken some fire from the insurance companies with regards to the quality of work kind of around what, his situation. So something like this could help hedge against that.
It
in
could be,
hindsight.
because the big challenge that he has, from what I see, it's sitting again being an armchair quarterback, which I
Right.
really. But looking at it, and since you bring it up, if he can just prove that the Kardashians know what level of work that he does, and they have accepted that,
Mhm.
I don't think he's going to be in that much trouble,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you buy a car for $40,000, but you expect it to be a Maybach, either you
Yeah.
got cheated or you're stupid, right?
Right.
If you've had this car for a while and you know what it can do, clearly you know it's not a Maybach.
Right.
You
Right.
can't sue the dealership for selling you a Maybach if
Right.
it's not. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same here. If they have accepted and he had made it clear to them that he's a one-man operation and they're happy with that level of security and he's done the exact same things as he's always done,
Mhm.
I don't think they'll be that much in trouble, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That's a great way of looking at it. But yeah, no. So I love that app. So do you guys have any other apps that you guys have put out?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a suite of apps, and right now
Okay.
we kind of like is kind of like working on the second version of it, which is now called Protection Manager. It's on a company by itself. There's a
Okay.
dashboard to it, so if you run a control center operation, they can kind of follow everything that goes on. They
Mhm.
can see where the details are. It can integrate with the intelligence team if you have as such. You can also use the dashboard if you're a horse and walls guy, or if you
Yeah.
just have a detail out working for you. You're the CSO or the detail leader sitting back home. You can see where are the guys, how far are they on the advanced work. But you can also pull out a bunch of data afterwards if you want to
Wow.
kind of get into the whole dataization of what do we do in EP and show value and maybe build your budget for next year, track how much sleep do the agents actually get, how much are they on the road, all of that stuff. And the plan is for the app to get more and more add-ons.
Okay.
We're working on the POI module. We're working on an intelligence module. We're working on a threat assessment for buildings and houses module. But it'll all run through the same suite of apps. So it'll be exciting. It's
That
kind of
is
a
exciting. That's
pet
awesome.
project that we have right now. So
That's fantastic. Okay, good to go.
yeah.
Are there any daily rituals that you do that you believe that make you a better person, better agent, better business owner?
Clearly you don't know me very well. I'm actually all over the place, right? And I'm one of
Yeah.
those who look for my keys every morning because I don't place them the same place.
Okay.
And I pretty much lived in hotels my whole adult life. Literally,
Yeah.
I'm on the road more than 250 days a year, every year. So it's
Wow.
hard for me to keep a ritual,
Uh-huh.
but I try to kind of do the rituals of delivering the same work product for my teams because they get very depending on you.
Yeah.
And it can be hard when you're on a 12-hour plane ride and you land somewhere and there can be like 200 or 300 emails that needs to be answered and whatever. So
Yeah.
it's not so much about that, but it's more kind of like being there, trying to kind of like inspire them and be a leader and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've gotten back into into my workout the last couple of years,
Awesome.
which I was kind of lacking. So I'm just trying in general to live a healthier life and be a better person. But it's hard sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah, with
Also,
work.
you don't want to become an EP bum, right?
Yeah, an EP bum. That's the truth, man.
It's easy. It's easy.
That's easy to happen, yeah. When people think of you and your company, or just you in general, legacy-wise, what do you want, in a word or two, or in a principle, what would you want them to remember you by?
I don't know. I mean,
What do
I
you
think most
represent?
people would rather forget about me as fast as they can. No, I don't know. I think I don't know. One of the guys who taught me, he said that he said a couple of things that I always kind of stuck by. He always said that I have to remember, Christian, that no matter how much these people are and how much respect you have and how much of
Yeah.
all of this, you have to remember that they have to sit down when they go and do number two as well, just like you. So
Yeah.
you know less than these people. You just do something else.
Yep.
I think
Yeah.
the one legacy I've kind of maybe have influenced in this business, if I ever had done anything,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of make it a little bit more relaxed and fun.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm very much about you kind of get what you see what you get, and get what you see.
Yeah.
Right? Try to. I own a suit. I put it on if I have to go and see somebody where a suit is required. Right?
Yeah.
But I'm
Mm-hmm.
very much a big advocate of us not pretending to be something that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, security struggles so much with image for
Yeah.
what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, if we come in and talk down to people around the client,
Yeah.
we'll struggle even more with image. Where if you meet people where they are,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have a much better way of communicating with people. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
one little tiny piece I might have influenced a little bit is that we don't need to be in a suit and tie all the time. We don't need to build an exact copy of who we were in the past life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can do it in a different way as well.
Yeah.
So I think if somebody would, if the two people who remembers me that I don't owe money, if they would remember me for something, I hope it would be something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's awesome. Well, for the not having to wear a suit all the time, that's a huge one. But also,
no, but you know, there's a time and place for that, and I get the details that have to do it. I've just been lucky enough to kind of work with clients where I don't have to, but it's more the mentality of it, you know, than anything else.
I understand completely, 100%. And I totally understand what you're saying. And I think too, the being able to be more congenial and the humor of it and the humanity of it and the reality of what you can and can't do and the managing expectations, and just you seem to be very humble, approachable, congenial guy, man. I really appreciate that about you.
You know, I think
interactions with you.
I think I have an obligation a little bit. I've been lucky enough on some ways to carry the torch for some of this, and why wouldn't I talk to new people in the industry about this? There's a time and a place for it, of course, but you know, when I go to a conference or if I meet people on the street or if they shoot me an email, I mean, why the hell not? I mean, who am I to kind of like be up there or think I'm too good for that or whatever? I mean, it might take some time before I get back or whatever, but I really try to get back to people. And a lot of times I actually get from some of my leadership why I answer most emails from entry-level people when I don't always answer the leadership's emails and stuff like that. But, you know, it's one of those things that when I started this company, I started it to be an agent. I really wanted a place to work as an EP agent or bodyguard, as it was called. And to begin with, if AS Solution were to go away or whatever, I would probably sit in a car somewhere right now talking shit about how much I hate this job and how I'd rather be somewhere else and the client about and I would do my duties and stuff like that. I really like what I do, and as you can hear in this podcast and interview, I mean, I'm so passionate about it. I usually say that I work with one guy who's more passionate about it than me. But besides that, I love what I do, and I want to share it with as many people as I possibly can. And I can learn a lot from all the young people and the new people. You have to remember that I'm almost 50. Most of the people that come to work for me now are going to be millennials, right? And instead of what I'm saying now, isn't that the greatest thing in the world? I have to reinvent everything I do to cater to these people. Ain't I lucky I get to do that? Right? I could also be negative and say it'll never work and whatever, but I'm not going to change the world. I just have to change so we can cater to the people that come and work for us, right?
It's a perspective thing, man. And
it is.
I think that a lot of, just based on what you've said, I think just your mindset, man, it's been an honor to be able to learn from that mindset and soak that up from someone who's done as much as you have. But that perspective, you know, looking at it as such an honor to be able to do that, and really having the intellectual and the like mental flexibility to be able to be like, hey, this, to see that this is an honor. You know, I talk sometimes about the privilege of suffering, you know, and being able to look at being honored by my enemies and being honored by my challenges. The larger the challenge, the more honor that there is to complete it. And the fact that I'm even being faced with it means I'm at a level where I'm honored by that high quality of a challenge. And then, so it's just good to hear those things validated when you're looking, you're like, hey, being able to solve problems and learn from these millennials, that's an honor. That's something that's a good thing, because I know a lot of people will be pulling their hair out, so that.
No, I know. And
don't
get me wrong. Perspective. I'd probably pull my hair out in the process.
Right. But that's the fight.
That we're kind of losing focus a little bit, because these things are something that's not going to go away. So we might as well learn to live with them. And the one who learns to live with it the fastest is going to recruit the best people. Yes, and at the end of the day, all I sell is good people, right? Yeah. If I don't have good people to do the EP details and stuff like that, I don't have anything. So it's very important. But speaking about you, Byron, I mean, there's one thing I really, really like about people, and you being the perfect example. That is that you put yourself out there, and you put yourself out there every day, and you talk about stuff that doesn't have a right or wrong, right? You talk about motivational stuff and stuff like that, meaning that it's very, very easy for people to poke at you. But putting yourself out there like that also makes and breaks who you are, right? And if you don't put anything out into the universe, you don't get anything back. I am a serious believer in that. Yeah. And I really, really appreciate the people who are not afraid of stepping up and say, hey, this is my opinion, like it or not, or whatever, and keep doing it. Right? People who think that, he just goes on Instagram or whatever on the way to the gym or whatever. Yeah. Pretty naive. I mean, it takes a lot of work to do with that stuff, right? And a lot of thinking process and stuff like that. And I really, really like that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. That really means a lot. Yeah. No, that's good. The people that get in the ring are the ones that make the difference, and sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, but if you can do that and go through that process, I think you're a better person at the end of the day for whipping it on and getting after it, man. Yep. That's awesome. Thanks so much for that compliment. Those are pretty much the questions I had for you today, sir. Where can we find you? What are you up to these days? Where do you want to direct people?
Where can you find me? Probably look in a hotel somewhere or on a flight.
Right.
That's really where I usually tell people that I live at the Marriott somewhere. But no, I mean, the next thing is getting ready for the EP conference, and then hopefully things will slow down a little bit up towards Christmas, and then full speed ahead in January, and hopefully we'll get to do a lot of great things. I'll be in Davos for sure, and I'll try to make it out, since we have a bunch of clients we can meet at the SHOT Show and stuff like that. And hey, besides that, it's about what I call world domination, right?
Yes, sir. I'm right there with you. How you doing today? We're up to today. Taking over the world one day at a time. Don't worry about it. That's awesome. And I'll be hopefully joining you at the conference and at SHOT Show too. So we'll get to hang out there too. So thank you so much for coming on, Christian. It's an honor. It's awesome.
I had a lot of fun, man. It's great talking to you, Byron, and I really like your podcast. So it's actually
so much. Awesome. And there's so much good stuff in this, if I may say so myself. There's a lot of good stuff in here, man. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you. I mean, but it's also a question about, I can feel that you have passion for this industry, and then it's fun to talk to you,
Yeah, 100%.
When good things happen, right? And I don't think I've managed to offend anybody, so it's pretty good.
We'll see these days. You never know, but God bless.
You never know. Yeah, right.
All right. Good to go. Cool. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for your time, sir. Much appreciated.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right. Out.
Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events, and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.